Welcome to another episode of the Other 98% podcast. I'm the worst arm wrestler in the world, Ryan Grondin.
And I'm not the worst arm wrestler in the world, but still part of the other 98%, Josh Vinikoor.
And you guys know me. I'm Warren Raber, or the other 98%. And tonight we have a very special guest. It seems like we're probably going to have special guests every night, but this guy's really special. You may not consider him part of the 98%, but we really don't care. And he's just an all-around great person and really big part of this community. And so please welcome Paul Linn to the show tonight.
Paul Linn?
Paul Linn.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear
you.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Now, guys, when Paul gets here, you got to pretend like we care about what he's talking about.
That's funny because I'm not going to be talking. I'm listening. Hold on. Where the hell is where's the, Jesus.
Should be the bottom left, Paul.
Yeah, I'm trying to use a different webcam.
Yeah.
And it's not working. I got a good webcam, man. You guys got all this background shit going on. I'm jealous.
Dude, I just got the background like 3 minutes ago.
Hold on, man. I gotta get official. I gotta put the headphones on. I can't hear y'all. We're gonna do this. See if this motherfucker works. My webcam ain't working anyway, so. What is Josh Vinikoor doing on here?
Came to say hi to you, bro.
What's going on, brother?
How you doing, man?
How's everything going?
It's all right. As good as can be.
Right.
Yeah.
All things considered.
But now we're here on the podcast.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Whenever you guys are ready, do what y'all want to do.
All right. We'll probably just start with some questions.
Hold on. Do I have a background like in the final edit of this? Do I get like a cool, the worst arm wrestling green background behind me?
We could send you one if you want to put one.
You can't be the worst arm wrestler.
Email that to him.
Do you want me to email it to you and you can set it as your background?
Nah, don't worry about it, man. I'll just be the oddball out. It's all right.
Oh.
Well, I mean, you aren't exactly in the 98%.
You're right. I know that was going to be my first question to you guys. Like, hey, why the heck do you have me on this thing? I thought the idea was to.
We're just going to troll you for a half hour.
I'm good with that.
And kick you out of here and be like, you're not part of this. No.
That's it. That's exactly what. Like the ending of this show needs to be. Why is this guy on here? And then click black screen.
Or like you get mad and take your headphones off and like we pissed off the nicest guy in arm wrestling. That would be funny.
Ryan did say this would be the one and only interview that you literally would get up and just walk away from.
Listen, and Ryan, if your troll skills are that good, my hat will be off to you.
I'll take it easy on you.
No.
I was gonna every time you said something, I was gonna be like, well, Paul, I disagree. And then just repeat what you said. And then when you say, Ryan, I literally just said the same thing, I was gonna be like, well, we can agree to disagree, Paul.
I love that. That's awesome. That's exactly what you should do.
The whole time we all just
gave it away. Now we're screwed.
We all just disagree with you the whole time.
I think
Brian, you got to edit all that out.
Yeah. Oh, I will.
Yeah.
All right. Well, whoever wants to start with the first question, go for it.
Well, I know Paul way too well to start off with a question. So you guys should just do what you got to do. I'll throw some shit in. I guarantee that cup that he's drinking out of right now, it's either Monster or some kind of energy drink with ice. I guarantee it.
Well, there's definitely ice in it. Not Monster. It's too late for that.
Too late for a Monster. You gotta sleep. Yeah.
Is it something from your Fountain of Youth counter?
No.
I do my homework.
No. Where did you hear that? That's great.
It doesn't matter, Paul.
My wife breaks my balls about that constantly.
Hold on, you got to explain. I need some context. What is this fountain of youth counter?
Well, first off, I've been taking like supplements like for my entire life, but when I finally submitted myself to the idea that arm wrestling injuries are in fact injuries, I went on like a quest to like heal my my medial epicondylitis. So I went way down the rabbit hole. I have every anti-inflammatory, every tendon mending, every natural, everything known to man. I mean, I went through a phase where I had like 4 bottles of fish oil, and Devin Larratt had me taking like 10 shot glasses of them a day. I was literally sweating out and burping out fish oil. It didn't work, but it was worth a try.
That's nasty.
It was worth a try.
Yeah, so now that we have the residual stuff that I purchased throughout that time that kind of just sits on a little counter, and she gets so pissed because I won't clean it up. I won't throw none of it away because I don't know what works and what doesn't.
That's great.
I mean, how
hemp oil, all this evil devil shit that everybody says you ain't allowed to take because it's got weed in it. Hold on.
How do we clean? Yeah, we get it because the fountain of youth is getting extremely crowded.
Nitroglycerin patches, prescribed, usually used for heart disease. If you want extra blood flow into your injured tendons, you take one of these heart patches and you put it onto your tendon area, and you get an extremely bad migraine headache after 2 hours.
That's
and then you fight through it so that blood flow can go to your tendons.
Do you know what gives me a migraine headache? The fountain of youth counter. How can we clean it up?
I'm going to give you a migraine headache. I'm going to slap one of these patches right on your temple.
I mean, how is that elbow doing?
It is good. PRP healed it. I mean, like, knock on wood. I hate to say things like that, but I had a PRP injection in the medial side, and then recently the lateral side, and knock on wood, the lateral side is good too. So I am fast becoming a believer. Now, during the time I had the PRP, I was also doing fish oil, turmeric, and every known supplement to man. Yeah. So it could have been a combination of all of them, but to me, the most operative thing has to be the PRP, especially because I'm 2-0 with it right now. Next step is maybe get it in my shoulder. I'm hearing things from Steve Black and some other guys that you can heal like torn labrum, partially torn labrum, things like that.
That's insane. Yeah, I gotta try that one day.
I mean, if you really think about it from a conceptual perspective, we're talking about like tendons and ligaments not getting blood flow. I mean, PRP is exactly that. It is your blood taken out of your body. While you sit there and watch it, they spin it in the centrifuge for like 30 minutes. And they spin down all the platelets and the plasma, and you get this yellow looking fluid, and they pump it right back into the area. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, it's interesting too, because they do it all right in front of you. I think I would be weirded out if they took it out of the room, but they do it all in the same room.
like what are you really putting back in me?
Yeah, like I don't know.
Now, was that weird since you're afraid of blood and needles and heights?
Absolutely. I don't know who you were talking to. You must have been talking to my son. But yes, I can't stand needles. The worst part of the PRP is getting the blood drawn. I haven't given blood like in my life, like twice I think that I can remember. One was to get my job on the base that I work at. And the other one was like a kid, when I was a kid, and I remember like almost passing out. So
I heard a doctor actually had you sit on your hand because she was afraid you were going to hit her.
Yeah, that's bad. I remember, like if I had it, like I gotta have like some type of like sugary drink on hand. They gave me like an orange juice afterwards so I didn't pass out. But this was last year.
Did you get a lollipop?
That's not in my diet, Ryan. Come on, man.
It's in my diet.
That actually is one thing I wanted to ask you about is, everybody has like their way of eating, either to look a certain way, to perform a certain way, like what do you go by? Like, what's your style? Do you have like certain philosophies behind that?
I mean, like, so like throughout my life, I was always a hard gainer. Like as a kid, I couldn't game. It like took me to my senior year to battle as hard as I possibly could to get to be like 185, 190. I was always muscular and lean. And then in college, you know, it was like, all right, now you need to be 225, 230. So it was like a full-time job for me to gain. But I think I started to understand nutrition and what my body responded to. And my body putting weight on wise responds heavily to carbs. And it wasn't until later in life that, you know, the Atkins diet and keto and all that other nonsense comes around. And I don't like, I talk about keto a lot, but I'm not a keto person. Like, you're not going to see me peeing on any little strips or anything and checking my ketone levels. I'm not going to do that. I basically just keep my carb levels fairly low, and I eat clean. Like tonight, I mean, the only calories I took in today, like I had 5 eggs in the morning, and my wife made lean meat burgers, which I ate with like a lettuce wrap. So I had like 4 of them and 5 eggs, and that's what I ate. Now,
That's all protein,
yeah, protein and vegetables and I try my best. I'm trying my best to not eat processed foods. Now, obviously, like throughout the holidays and everything, I'm still battling to get that off because I let it go during those times.
Yeah.
But if I'm prepping for something, that's how I go. I cut the carbs down, but I'm like, my body's good with like 50 grams. So I don't ever go extreme.
That's pretty low. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like some of these guys that do the keto stuff are going as low as 20, you know, and having them all come from vegetables. So I think like when I'm cutting, like if I got to make 198, then I'll go that extreme, but not on like, if it's just summertime diet, I'm just eating low carbs and nothing processed.
Yeah. I mean, I did keto years ago before I didn't even know it was keto really.
Yeah.
But I literally was eating no carbs and, you know, high fat, high protein.
What happened to you? Did you lose?
I lost a ton of weight, but I couldn't get a pump to save my life.
Really?
Like my strength was going down too. So it's like, I just didn't feel right.
Well, Josh, how long did you do ketosis? How long were you on it?
It's probably maybe a year.
See, that's the problem. Our bodies aren't meant to be in ketosis that long.
Well, I know that now. Yeah.
Now you know. Now you know.
Yeah.
Like I'll be honest with you, like maybe 3 months, 4 months max.
Well, Josh, let me ask you, what was your water intake like on a daily basis during that time?
Well, the one thing I did have a high water intake and high electrolytes. So I was making sure I was getting my sodium, potassium. You know what I mean? I was, you know, I went to school for, you know, exercise science, you know.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And then I
we both
transferred
did the same dumb thing. Come on, man.
What?
I can't believe we're both that dumb to do that.
Yeah, and then I transferred my major the last year to a communications major. And
well, okay, I'm the only dumb one.
Yeah,
Lord's the smartest one of all of us because he just went and got a certification. That's all you need. It's all the same.
I got multiple certifications more when I was 17. You know, personal training certifications, and then I was going to school for this, and I was like, I can do this job with certifications. I don't need a degree in this.
Right.
You know, to a degree, relatively, and I just switched majors and whatnot. But now it's really interesting to hear everybody's different philosophies on diet, on training, on supplementation and all that. You know, like clearly you're consistent, you know what I mean? Like you do things every day, like all day, you know, like that's why you're at the level you're at.
I think it's, and I think you're right, because like when you look at like everybody's going to have a different approach, but everybody's different too. You know what I mean? So everybody's looking for this magical, like, all right, what's the code? You know, what is the password to get past this?
They want the Konami cheat code. It's just there is no cheat at all.
Right.
You got to put it to work.
Well, it's like you said. It's like Josh said. The real code is consistency. Mm-hmm. With anything you do, and like I said, I mean, we're running a strength program now, and that's literally what we talked about in the gym today. I set them all down, like, you know, how do you be a better football player? How do you get stronger? How do you be a better person in life? How do you be more successful? First off, you show up. First off, you have to be consistent and reliable. Second off, it comes down to your competitiveness and your, you know, just your innate drive or your ability to get that competitiveness out of you. I mean, those are like the two most important things. First, you got to show up, be consistent, reliable. Second off, you got to compete, whether it be with yourself or whoever you're against in every aspect of life, I feel like.
Like what keeps you going like day to day, to keep training, to keep, your diet on point. Like, I had a time when I was consistent and I was training hard every day and whatnot. And I fell off the wagon, whatever you want to call it. But you seem like you're in that prime, like where you're just hitting it hard,
Man, so
what's driving you right now?
That's a great question, because honestly, I don't have I have my long-term goals, and I feel like goals are like you have to have one short term, another like medium term, and you have to have that long-term like aspiration that you probably aren't going to achieve, but let's shoot for the stars and fail at the moon type thing. Yeah. So like right now, without having arm wrestling, it's really, really weird, because I don't want to say that I'm coasting, because I can always find things, motivation, like hope. But I think it really comes down to like my personality, like from day one. Like I met my wife, in college, and she would talk trash about blah, blah, blah. You're going to get fat like these dudes. And I said, listen to me. I will be the same dude at 50 as the guy that you're talking to right now.
What are you trying to say?
I don't know. No, but I mean, I'm like, I'm a routine-based person. So we talk about like, how do I get to the gym 2 hours a day or 2 times a day for 2 hours each? How do I do it? It's all about priorities. So I rank that high enough on my priority list that I make it happen no matter what. Now, am I going to tell you like that I get in the gym and go super hard every single day? No. I show up. And a lot of times, like I talked to Warren, I just was talking to you about this, man, you got to just show up. You show up. And usually them days you don't want to be there are your best workouts.
And that day I showed up and killed it.
Right.
That day we killed it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works, but it's just about getting your ass through the door. Yep. I say to the kids all the time, you show up and we'll take care of the rest. The environment will take care of the rest. The Bible will take care of the rest. But I've made that for me, it's also like a mental health thing, with not playing football anymore. Like I have to have a release. Like everybody's like, oh, Paul, you're a nice guy. You're such a nice guy. Well, maybe that's because I get to go to the gym every day and I don't go postal if I don't. The coronavirus, when this whole thing shut down, was a big time low point in my life. And I talked to a few people about that. Like that was a low point for me. Thank God for Justin building the gym in his garage. Had he not done that, you might be reading headlines. Oh, Paul Linn on the run for being a serial killer. I was losing my mind. So like that garage gym kept me going.
Well, that
pretty cool.
And I hear you have a sleepwalking issue.
And you were definitely talking to my wife.
Listen, I heard you do push-ups in your sleep.
I sleepwalk.
Yeah. How can anybody compete if you're training when you're sleeping? How can we compete with you if you're training when you're sleeping?
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's crazy.
It happened.
Even when he's resting, it's no rest day.
I have vivid dreams, man. I don't know. I've woken up in another room. I don't know. But I also labor under the belief that I haven't gotten actually more than 2 good hours of sleep in like the past 20 years of my life. So like I said, I'll rest when I'm dead, man.
So
I happen to have a video that your wife sent me of you going through every item on your Fountain of Youth counter.
Oh my God.
And she was like, oh, he's going to kill me for this.
Yeah.
Is there a way to drop that video in here somewhere?
Yeah.
Why would she send that? I think I was definitely drunk.
She was too, because she goes, yeah. Just edit out the parts of me slurring my words. And then she goes, oh, screw it. Just use it. And I was like, oh, yeah. Well, that's great. She was a sport about it. The funniest thing though is I sent her a message in Messenger and I said, could you give us some funny stories about Paul and this and that? And she goes, like 5 minutes goes by and she writes back, I'm kind of struggling. Paul's not a very funny human. I'm going to tell him this.
Oh, that's coming from her, man. That's coming from her. She has not made me laugh ever. I'm surprised she wasn't like, who the hell are you and why are you text messaging me, you weirdo, because she's done that to other arm wrestlers before. Like I had Barry Hurst was like kind of coaching me from a distance, and he sent her a message trying to get to me. Yeah. And it was like, hey, where's your husband at? Or blah, blah, blah. And she was like, block. And immediately was like, who is this weirdo texting me right now, Creeper? And I'm like, oh, that's like my guy.
That's awesome. Because, I started it with that we were doing an interview with you. So I was trying to get information. And she was like, oh, when are you doing the interview and what's it about? I was like, it's about arm wrestling, mostly. But you don't have to just give us arm wrestling information. And she sent me like a list of things.
Oh my gosh.
I was like,
she's the worst. She's the worst. We're going to have a talk after this. We're going to have a talk.
We're going to have a talk.
I did the same thing. I did the same thing to Jake Ward.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. After you tell us you can become a serial killer, and then you're like, we're going to have a talk after this.
Well, I listened to that, Jake. Right? There won't be any headlines. I promise, guys. I promise. That was a joke. I'm not funny, remember?
No.
The Jake Ward thing, I didn't realize where you got all. I didn't know you got all that information from his wife. I think I listened to like a good portion of it. Yeah. Did you tell him that afterwards?
Yeah. Pick up on it. And he had the same reaction as you. He's like, I'm gonna have a talk with her. Like,
I'm hearing sharks and blood and needles and things like that. I'm like, all right, you talk to somebody. You didn't look this up and say it somewhere.
Right.
Else.
Yeah. That might be my thing. Like I get information from family members.
That's actually not bad. You get on here and you pseudo blackmail everybody.
Yeah.
Like you let them know, like after like the first minute, like, listen, I got the dirt.
Yeah.
It's a little creepy though.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, that's why we make Ryan do it.
Right.
That's why I put these. That's why I wear these glasses.
This is what I don't understand. Barry Hurst is like my coach, and she calls him a creep and a weirdo and blocks him. And Ryan Grondin gets on with legitimate creepy questions, and she's like, "Oh, sure, I'll tell you everything."
Just flood him. Yeah, just
hold on. So what do you mean he's your coach right now? What's
no? He's not my. I mean, he is. Well, he is one of my mentors over time. But like when he was living with Dave Morocco there for a while, he's kind of the one that changed my style.
Okay.
From the stuff that I was doing wrong to actually a niche way to set up, niche way to work the strap, and a bunch of different training techniques.
My mentor is Barry Bourne.
Well, you know what? It's all about what your goals are.
Right.
It's all about what your goals are.
He's never lost. He's never lost anything.
Right. Hey, listen, you got to have some type of talent if you can be a world champion without ever being at Worlds.
Right.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
that
is impressive.
Well, Paul, we're going to kind of skip the formalities with you because you've probably been asked these questions 100 times, and God knows how many interviews that you've done. So we're not going to ask where you're from, how old are you, how long you've been arm wrestling, because pretty much everybody knows. So,
plus you're a 2%er, and we don't want to give you that respect.
I'm not arguing. I'm not gonna argue.
Man, I think Paul, you're in that 90. You're in the 3%. You're like
there we go. There we go.
I'll take that. You're not there yet.
Take that 100%. I would take that.
He's on the cusp.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
But not yet. I'm not gonna. I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
I'm good with it. The thing about this whole like other 98% thing that makes it so awesome is that that is like those first couple years when you get started is really like the honeymoon phase. And I'm only like 4 years in. I mean, Josh, you've been arm wrestling since you were a kid, like a child.
Yeah.
Like I'm nowhere near any of that. But I'll tell you what, once you get to a certain point, a little bit of the fun it goes away, and then it becomes more job-like, which isn't ideal. So, I mean, when we start talking about like the other 98% or whoever looks at this thing, like, man, guys, sometimes you gotta enjoy the process because that's when the fun happens. Yeah.
So yeah, I was having a conversation with my my girlfriend last night. Actually, she's at a point in her life, mid late 20s, where she doesn't have any hobbies or anything to like any community that she's really a part of outside of family and some friends. And I've had this community my whole life, that I'm still a part of. And it's something special to be said about the community of arm wrestling.
Right. And anybody who's like, you know, hopefully this podcast gets to some new pullers who are thinking about joining. And I think that you don't realize it until you get in. Like what you said was spot on, Josh. But the reality of it is you don't really understand it until you're in about, give it 6 months or so. And you realize that you can go to pretty much any state in this country and somebody's going to welcome you into their home. And that's the beauty of it being small. Like, I don't like the idea of keeping it small, but that's the beauty of it being small in the moment. And I think that's what a lot of like the arm wrestling purists really, they like the idea of keeping it small in that aspect. But I mean, they're really, I mean, when tragedies and things like that happen, it really highlights that. So, you know, obviously what happened, it really spins that completely, how so tightly knit you can be with a bunch of people that you may have never met face to face or may only see once in a while.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people coming out, and it was really cool to see the community come together as a whole, you know, and it was just a nice thing, you know, in a tragic situation.
Right.
But, you know, as on a lighter note, you know, it's like, you know, for me, you know, I haven't competed in a couple of years, like, you know that, Paul, you know, but like what keeps me in the sport every week is because I enjoy being around the people,
right?
You know, and that's like, it's bigger than just me. It's bigger than just me doing it on my own. So I know, like, you know, I see what you're doing, and you're bringing a lot of, bringing a lot of people into it, and it's really cool. You know, like, where do you see like the sport going, like, in your opinion, like in the next few years?
I mean, I know where I'd like it to go, but
where do you like it to go?
I mean, I'd like to see it like as a mainstay sub-sport, like in comparison to, like, listen, we all have to be realistic. Like, look at MMA, for instance. Look how long it took for that to become like a prominent sport. This is not something that's happening in anybody's lifetime here. We got to be real with that. But for us to get to the level of, I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like we talked about it, probably like the World Series of Poker. Like, if that can be played on major networks and things like that, like, why can't arm wrestling be close to that? Like, I mean, there is no reason why, with some of the formulas that they have out there, that this can't be a sport that can be done at a club level at high school. That's really the difference. That's what separates us from the Europeans. This stuff is recognized when you're a young kid. You know, if all of us just, like, look at all of us here, other than you, Josh, we all are getting into this in our late 30s or mid 30s. So, you know, imagine the opportunities had you found it when you were a kid. You know, to me, that would be the ultimate goal, is let's see it recognized at the high school level. If we could do that during our time, then the sky's the limit. But it's going to be slow growth. People feel, I feel like people talk about arm wrestling, you know, being in the Olympics. That's not just going to happen like that. Could it be? Sure. I think there's enough following for that to happen, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time.
I made a club at my high school when I was a kid. When I was in high school, I did make an arm wrestling club at my high school.
Did you really?
For 3 years, it was a club at the high school.
Did you get a turnout? Did they require insurance and things like that?
Well, they required me to get like 200 signatures, and they required me to have a teacher there supervising, you know, and a couple other little details. But I literally had a table that was in the one closet that I'd take out every Thursday, and I had like a core group of people that would always come, and then you'd have the football players, the wrestlers, cheerleaders, everybody hopping on the table, teachers. It was a good time, you know.
Yeah.
It became a cool thing that, you know, but there's no one to pass that on when I left.
Right.
You know, that's the hard part.
Well, and that's the thing that this is what's real tricky about, like, so like when you talk about the mentors in the sport, right? Like the guys who are really doing the heavy lifting that we might not acknowledge, it is these guys that are holding weekly practices. And listen, I am not that guy right now. I can't do every single weekend. We did for a while, but I mean, that becomes really, really tough to do. But when you see the Dave Moraccos of the world, the Jim Bryans of the world, the Sean Latimers of the world, these guys that are open in their home weekly, we can't take those guys for granted, because without them, there is no structure in the sport. And I think that's a great point. Like if we can move the sport to a point where we have these hubs that are all consistent, like this practice, this day, every week, this is routine. I think that's huge and key for growth. But I think with ArmBet going on, I think a lot of that's starting to happen.
Oh yeah.
Organically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, just as a kind of a side note, with the state of Team New Jersey, our team, there's been a lot of talks, among some of the members, and that's going to continue.
Right.
So we will, for as long as we can, years to come, be a team. So
right, and I had no doubt in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You guys have one of the, and people that don't know about Team New Jersey, you're missing out. We're talking about one of the largest teams probably on the East Coast, and a legitimate team, not just a bunch of guys who practice in the same, but no, a team that goes with team shirts, and you are a member. You know what I mean? And I've talked to other people about the idea of like having a team and being exclusive. It's tough in PA. I don't want to say it's tough because it's a good thing. We have so many people. Like you got Team Philadelphia. That's probably one of the closest teams. But we have so many little pockets, that like it's so fragmented. Like we might, like Warren and I might train together, and then next week he goes and trains with Chuck Bardo. So I do think that there's value in creating the actual team aspect too, where it's like, all right, I'm a part of this team, but the work required to do that is a lot, and people take it for granted. They take people like Dave Morocco and Jim Bryan for granted, for sure, for what they do.
And it was funny, one year when I competed at nationals, there was a team award, for the your state, but I live in PA, but I'm a part of Team New Jersey,
right?
But I pulled for Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
it was weird.
That sucks.
Yeah. So I was like,
that sucks.
I remember I got, because I was in the junior class and I won that, and I got, points on the board, for Team PA like the first night.
Yeah. And you probably went back to the hotel feeling dirty.
I was like,
medal. I'm not showing anybody because I scored for the other team.
I was like, I won, but nah, but everybody understands. It's all cool. You know what I mean? Not a big deal. It's just, because it is an individual sport.
That's one of the sport is struggling right now because we don't have a nationals. And I'll be honest with you, Warren, before you started pulling and everything, we went down to sit down nationals with a Pennsylvania team. And that was one of the most fun I ever had, right? I'm pulling for points. I don't really care about like, do I win this or don't win it? But I do care about, hey, I'm going to pull these two classes and get these points for the team. You know what I mean? And that was fun. And Josh, I'm sure you guys did it probably a bunch of years.
Oh yeah, many years walking in as a team, and you're pulling for something bigger than just yourself,
right?
Which is really cool.
Yeah,
and a lot, and it builds some camaraderie that you'll never have, and otherwise. And the one thing like I want to get back to is these nationals and these crazy after parties that like I haven't seen in years.
Right.
Like,
right.
It was maybe a little bit before your time, Paul, but it was a little bit different because it was a much smaller community than it is now.
Yeah, I pulled nationals my first year when I was like 3 or 4 months in. So I did get to experience that, like, 3-4 day weekend and the after parties and the after pools. So I missed the tail end, or I got the tail end. There was one more year of it, I think. And then they tried to do the unified thing, and that's when everything crumbled.
It's a mess. Yeah.
I know. So now we're relegated to local tournaments, and like, we might get the same turnout at a local tournament, but it doesn't have the title, and it doesn't have the travel commitment either. That travel commitment's big. When you mark that calendar down, say, hey, I'm going to South Carolina on this date, and I better be ready. Those are the goals that help motivate, I think.
I feel a lot of new guys don't want to travel. Like they don't want to travel outside their little community, their little, within an hour drive, 2 hour drive, like God forbid, you go travel, prove yourself against people you don't know.
Right. Well, that's really the only way to climb. You know what I mean? Is to go to, but it like you said, it sucks because we don't have that titled tournament that is national. So like we all know Mississippi State's is a great tournament, right? We know that is going to be, that's going to be national level. That's a big event that would have the same amount of clout as a nationals, but it doesn't have the title. So not that you should be chasing titles, but like when it's nationals, you know you're going to have a lot of states, you know, and it adds a level of officialness that we don't have right now.
There's something to be said for being a national champion. That is a real goal that somebody can strive for in their class.
Right.
You know, and if they don't have that goal, then like what are we training for? Because it can't be about the money right now. You know, because like there's only that 2%. Yeah, there's only the 2%, maybe the 1%, you know, in America anyway.
Guys,
money arm wrestling. It's not worth it.
It ain't about it. I can make more money. I can make more money shoveling snow on a snowstorm. Okay. Let's be serious. Like there's a couple people out here who are living off arm wrestling, but they're not living off the prize money.
No.
Right? So we got to be real. And that's not, I think that, you know, that's another thing when you talk about like, where could the sport go? Could we have arm wrestlers who, you know, live only off the money? There's a possibility for it, but once again, I put that way off also. Like I don't see anybody quitting their day job. You know, if journeyman MMA fighters have to have jobs too, then arm wrestlers don't have to work.
Unless you're Ryan Bowen. If you're Ryan Bowen, you can do it.
Yeah,
but he's not
once
making
again,
money off arm wrestling.
It's not the prize money.
No.
It's not.
But he does work hard though.
Yes, he does. He works harder than anybody else. And like, listen, Ryan Bowen is a very, very smart guy.
Yeah.
Like Ryan Bowen is going to be the smartest guy in the room amongst arm wrestlers a lot of the time. He knows how to brand. He knows how to follow up. He knows how to show up, follow through. He's very, very organized. He is a good businessman, and he deserves the money he makes from the sport.
He gets a lot of shade, and I don't think it's deserved as much.
Yeah, for sure. But listen, that's part of his MO now too. He trolls a little bit himself to get some of that.
Right.
And I think, you know, like when you get to a certain level, all publicity is good publicity,
yeah,
right? So,
absolutely.
People are watching.
Any publicity is good publicity,
Yep. Yeah, I've had times where I'm like I see some of the comments and he gets into it with people and I text him and be like, Ryan, why are you feeding the trolls? He was like, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I think he's doing some good things for the sport, you know, looking, you know, from an outside perspective, just seeing what he's doing. You know, you know, he's making a lot of content. He's consistent, you know, which another thing, you know, that's what comes in there.
I mean, it's easy to kind of think negatively about the guy because he's from another continent, you know what I mean? And a country that wasn't seen as like a good arm wrestling country. He's putting them on the map.
Absolutely.
What blows my mind is when the Australian community, the Australian arm wrestlers, the ones that don't embrace him. And like, I know he says a lot of stuff and, you know, I think he tries to sometimes potentially get that feedback, but the reality is this guy has put Australian arm wrestling on the map. Absolutely. Australia is now recognized. We now have a handful of guys that are looked at the world level who might not have yet even really gotten to do anything large at the world level, but they're perceived that way. And I believe that the quality is also there. Like Ben Carroll's the one that did the most so far. And Ryan's got a super match with him. Like he's exposing like everything that Australia has to offer. And the other thing that they're doing over there is they are consistently training in Brisbane and in certain areas. Yeah. And they have like
clubs. Yeah.
Yes, a legitimate club with equipment to train at.
Yeah,
that's another.
I know.
Thing
I can't believe that hasn't taken off here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, why hasn't anyone started a club where you can go arm wrestle, practice, and work out?
Justin has talked about wanting to do this forever.
Yeah.
You know, that's my guy. It's just really about making it happen, having the finances and being able to follow up to make it happen. We've talked about it, but it would be very interesting to see if we could actually make it happen. It would almost be one of those things where you would need like full-time effort on it to get it going.
Absolutely.
Initially. Because there's going to be a lot of overhead and you stand to lose a lot of money. Right. So unless you're doing it like for yourself, you know, and you have a building or a facility and you're going to open it, if you want to do it as like a club funded thing, it's going to be tricky. And then you're going to have to charge dues because of the overhead, which then sometimes that gets weird.
Just come to Philly practice.
Yeah.
Don't you guys rent out like a hall or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve gets a lot of shit about charging $5, but he rents the place.
Yes.
So it goes to that. It's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's that. First off, if you're upset, if you're willing to drive however far you drive to go arm wrestle, and you're upset about $5,
Right.
Come on, bro.
You just wasted more gas than $5 to get there.
Killing me. But yeah, that's. I mean, like I've been to plenty of places where that's like at Ron Klemba and Tim Bresnan's. That's in Ron's like his barn, and they have a little like a tip jar type thing, and like I went there and. Like one of the members was like, "Hey, you don't feel obligated, but we usually drop $10 in this thing because Ron opens it every single week for us."
Yeah.
So I don't see a problem with it, but if I'm hosting, I would not do that. I would not want to do that. I would feel guilty if I did it, but I also see that it makes sense if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's one of our talks about the direction with Team New Jersey is we're pretty set on practice is free. We may not invite the whole world to come every time, but practice is free for us. Make money elsewhere. That's,
right. I agree. I agree. There shouldn't be a formula where you're making money doing something. Well, I don't know. Whatever. I'll digress because I don't know how to articulate that.
It's a tough topic.
I am not comfortable charging with the I mean, these tournaments, like the people don't realize when you host tournaments like how much money you can stand to lose if you're not getting sponsors.
It's a lot of overhead, actually. It's a mess.
We were going to charge you to interview you.
Oh yeah. See, listen, I'll pay my dues when it comes to listen. I will support a good cause.
It's 2% of the total.
2% of the total. Oh no.
Oh man.
What do you think is your biggest loss, like in arm wrestling, and what did you learn from that loss?
Biggest loss, like what do you mean biggest?
Like what to you was your biggest loss? Not actually a big loss, but like, is there a certain match that felt like a loss to you where you were disappointed, or maybe you took something from it and used it as motivation? Or
probably the 3-3 split with Paul Talbot the first time I pulled him.
Yep.
But so I haven't. Oh, that's such a double-edged sword question because so I think once you get to a certain point, you start looking at matches like, okay, if I'm in this class, who am I supposed to be and who am I supposed to lose to, right? So like, all right, I go pull 225, WAL qualifier, Marcial Barboza's is there, okay? Kevin Nelson's there.
Right.
I'm supposed to lose to those guys, right? But let's say somebody else who's also really high level, but the world perceives as, I shouldn't lose to that person. Like Nazar Simcoe's there.
Yeah.
I'm okay with losing to Marcio. You know what I mean? So, but like there's certain matches that I would say that the Paul Talbot 3-3 split, and another one that I don't know if a lot of people know that I lost to Philippe Hertz.
Oh yeah, when did that happen?
Yes, I did in an overall, and it was out of Marcio, one of Marcio's tournaments, and at that point, I pulled a couple classes and it was in the overall and everything, but I first round hooked him, drug him over fluidly, and my elbow came off the back pad when I was pinning him. Second round, he turned up and committed hard shoulder right away and kept me on the B side, and I couldn't pull through him. And that was one that like, okay, this is kind of the first time where I know how good Philippe is. I've lost to him prior, but we are not in the same weight class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was one that was like, okay, I need to figure out certain things on the setup so that, I can't sleep. I cannot be asleep against anybody.
Yeah.
So that was one that stuck with me. And then obviously, the Paul Talbot one. And a lot of that largely was me not really taking a super match scenario as serious as I should have, like not taking time off and not peaking and doing things like that. So those were big learning moments for me. The other thing was like the first time that I lost to a guy, went B-side and came back and beat him.
That's all.
Yeah.
I didn't, before it happened to me, I thought it was not possible. I was like, all right, if this dude just smashes me, there's no way for me to figure him out. But it was an eye-opening moment when I did that for the first time. I was like, okay, there are a lot of options in this game, and there are ways to counter. And just because you lose doesn't mean you're going to lose every time.
Like a chess match.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go the exact opposite of what Ryan just asked you, and ask you, what would you consider to be your most meaningful or biggest win for you?
Ooh, probably Dan Mosier, probably at the Arnold. I mean,
At the Arnold?
The Arnold was my biggest, first place showing.
Okay.
It's a big stage, it's as close as
Absolutely.
nationals as you're going to get now. And because I went B-side and was able to beat him from the back end, and figure some things out, that is kind of a win that I hold in pretty high regard.
Yeah.
I've had some other ones that meant a lot to me for whatever reason, but that one is probably the one that would be perceived the best.
Since you just brought up Dan, what's your opinion on Ryan and Dan pulling Bowen?
Listen, I like both of these guys.
Yeah.
All right. And I think that Dan has gotten stronger, but I also think Ryan has. There's a lot of stuff surrounding that first meeting that they had.
Yeah.
Dan pulling the tournament first and Ryan being pseudo fresh and then it being the team thing.
Right.
I do think that had a bearing, right? So like when that win happens, like is there an asterisk put beside it? Maybe, but that was the prior day, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure that was the prior day.
Yeah.
The reality of it is though too, I'm not sure how good Dan's endurance is, and it might have had an impact. But at this juncture, it's so hard to gauge Ryan because everything he's doing is over there. Yeah. But I watch what he's doing with Lackland.
Yeah.
I watch what he's doing with Jordan Davis. And Jordan Davis is a guy that largely has given him a lot of problems. So I think Ryan has leveled up also. I hate to speculate on that match because we've watched Dan 6-0 him.
Right. Yeah, that's a tough one to gauge,
Yeah. My gut says Ryan figures him out. Ryan hasn't figured out.
Right.
I mean, I think it could go the other way, but I think Ryan hasn't figured out. I think Ryan can load. Ryan can set the strap. I think Ryan can lock pronation. I think he can low hand when needed. I think he can post when needed. And I think that the formula to being able to give Dan some problems is a combination of some of those things there. Ryan Bowen takes a lot of flack. Ryan Bowen is a phenomenal arm wrestler.
Yeah, I agree. He's a good dude.
Agreed. Yeah. So speaking of a super match you were saying about with Bowen and Mosier, which I did watch that on YouTube, and it was there's some I think it could have been a better outing. But if you could pick anybody for a super match, who would it be?
You guys were frozen.
What's that?
Who?
Said you guys are frozen for a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, did you? I was just saying, I don't know.
So you're saying the super match? Well, I mean, like,
if you could pick anybody, who would you love? Like, what would your ideal super match be? Like, you because I know you're a competitor, so I know you're going to pick somebody that is going to give you everything because you're going to give them everything.
Here's the thing: if we don't know what's going on with WAL,
right?
I haven't heard much. If it's WAL and you saying to me, like, who do you want to pull in that roster? I would gladly pull, like whoever they give me. But who would I want to pull? Obviously, I want to pull Rob. I mean,
absolutely.
That's the guy. That's going to be the guy that gets me the most motivated.
That's what everyone's waiting for.
Right. Yeah. But if you X out the WAL and say, all right, we're in current COVID times, who do you want to have a match with?
Yeah.
Honestly, I'll tell you 100%, regardless of who it is. And let's say I had to pull Rob, or let's say I got a shot at Rob, but it was at like a local, I would not treat it the same way.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't pour as much emotion into it, you know?
Yeah.
The stage is a little bit different. It would be an awesome, but honestly, right now I've been talking to Eng and Terzi, and we're trying to figure out a way to get over to Turkey. And he came up with that idea, that 4-man with Ryan and Dan and myself. And I would love to pull Eng. And the only reason I would love to pull Eng is because I kind of idolize him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if Engen breaks my arm, I'm not gonna be mad, you know? Like, Engen, I hate that guy. Broke my arm. It's like if your mom breaks your arm, your mom broke your arm, you just say, all right, mom, thank you. I appreciate it.
You have them sign your cast after.
Take me to the hospital. Yeah. So to me, that's a win-win, you know?
Yeah.
Dude, and I mean, just to be able to have the opportunity to say I did it, you know, there's only so many people out there, you know, of that clout level where, you know, that historical background that you could say you actually put your elbow down on the table against them. You know,
right.
It's like the John Brzenk thing, like too late, you know?
It's not like you're going to run into him often here.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
that's good.
I got to get my passport.
Yeah.
I'm not missing that. If that happens, I'll tell you right now, I'm going front and center. I'm watching that.
Turkey and then Dubai, right? Let's go.
Hell yeah. We're going to Dubai. We're going to Dubai.
I keep seeing Engen get in all these like social media freaking wars with people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, why is anybody going to argue with his knowledge, first of all?
Right.
Like, do they not like understand? Like,
it's the internet. It's the internet, Josh. Everyone has to argue about everything. It doesn't matter if you're an expert or not. You know, everyone is an expert on everything, but yet they know nothing. Right. You know.
Yeah, I was always brought, you know, through football and everything. You know, like you got coaches, you got people who've been there and done it before you. I was always taught to like, if you disagree, keep it to yourself.
Right.
We'll find a way to like discuss it like amicably. But to me, it's, you know, respect your elders. This guy, not only has he won how many world championships, but he also is like a dictionary on the sport.
Yeah.
I would, you know, I want to learn from the guy, and I want to go over there and figure out how is his pronation that good? What is he doing differently? I know he's got some videos out there, but I want to walk through it. You know, to me, that type of stuff's priceless.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, he deserves some more respect than some of these people are giving him, and it frustrates me when I see that, and I'm like, you know, because I don't like social media arguments and all that stuff. I try to stay away from that. You know, I keep my opinions to myself, but it's like, come on, man.
Well, usually if someone disagrees with him, he just blocks them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's actually not
I've seen quite a few posts of a lot of these arm wrestling discussions or whatever it may be, these groups that, like, you know, don't disagree with any and he'll block you. Oh well.
It's not a bad honestly, like it is what it is, but I mean, if you don't want to deal with negative people,
that's how
that's one way to handle it.
That's the best way to get the last word.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, you know what? Click.
Yeah. Click. No response from you.
Just got banged on.
Yeah. No. I think people need to kind of figure out like win something before you're gonna like, you know, start trying to like argue with somebody that like has won everything. You know.
Right.
Pretty much. Yeah.
But you know, to each their own, right?
That's the world we live in now.
Everybody's an expert.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
So, Paul, you're talking about, you know, possibly, you know, when WAL gets their shit together and we figure out what's going on with COVID and all this and that, you know, say like you get that match with Rob, how would you prepare for that?
Go harder than I ever went before.
Well,
go harder than I ever went before.
Yeah.
Devin said the same thing, only harder.
Yep.
That's it. Go
get strong.
Go,
strong.
You know,
get strong.
It's well, not just that. I mean, there's obviously I'm gonna have have an approach, and I'm gonna have certain finite areas that I'm gonna work on. But how am I gonna approach that? I mean, it's like, how you gonna approach it if you're going into a title fight against Muhammad Ali? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna have an 8-week camp, or are you gonna show up with 2 weeks of training beforehand? I know if that's the case, and they give me 8 weeks notice, I'm gonna have an 8-week camp.
Absolutely.
That's how I address things in general, So, and I think that's the beauty of this sport, is you get the opportunity to train like a fighter, which is one of those things that's what I wish MMA was a thing when I was a kid. It was UFC was 1, 2, and 3 when I was a kid. I've always been envious of the fight game and being able to kind of dedicate time and training towards one opponent, and but it's not the same if it's just not the same if it's something that you're doing at a bar somewhere. There is a level of legitimacy that WAL brings. And Storm and I had talked about it before, like his motivation and things like that. And he said to me in the past, like, I am not going to lose on television. Like, however your motivation is, whether that's, but I mean, that is a real thing. Like, if your thing's going to be on BR Live, or it's going to be on ESPN3. There ain't no better motivation than not look like a fool on TV.
Right.
So
instead of some bar Facebook video.
Yeah. Like, we know the community's going to see it, but my family is going to see it now too.
The whole world.
Your doctor's gonna,
Yeah. I got to go get my teeth drilled, and they say, "Hey, I saw you get your ass whipped." I don't need that right now. I don't need to go to the weight room and have the kids being like, "All right, come on, arm wrestle me now. You suck."
That's great.
I wish arm wrestling, we try to get that out of the bar sometimes. Like, I understand why it's in bars, because it's an easy venue. There's food, whatever. But like,
booze,
it's not something I would bring. Which is not a good thing. But like,
or strip clubs.
The best tournaments I've ever. Yeah, that's just going below that, But like, the best tournaments I've been to, ballroom, cool venues, like sites, like where it's like, expos, that is where it's fun.
Well, what's funny about that too, and it's a good point, is like because of how I kind of started in this sport, I see it as a barroom sport, right? I see it as a barroom sport that I take a little bit more seriously. You know what I mean? So like, you can play darts at the bar, or you can play darts at a tournament to win money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of see it like that. But the real, like, listen, pool tables are almost every bar. Yeah. But if you want to go win money playing pool, you're not doing it at a bar. Right. You know what I'm saying? You're doing it at a real venue. And I think that, like you said early on, Josh, that's what the sport's been kind of stripped of. We don't have that nationals, that thing where, all right, listen, this isn't a smoky bar. This is a place where athletes come to weigh in legitimately and compete legitimately for a title that's legitimate. So you're 100% right, but there's a piece of it that needs to be in a bar too. But there needs to be like clear separation, and right now we're stuck with just the bar scene. And I'll tell you what, like, I'll be the first one to tell you, if we go to a tournament in a bar and I'm competing, I'm also drinking beers. So how serious am I really being if I'm drinking 6-7 Michelob Ultras before I pull? I can usually, it's cool, the nerves are cut down, but I surely wouldn't do that at Nationals. I surely wouldn't do that at the Arnolds. Surely wouldn't do that in WAL.
Yeah, no. I mean, granted, there's good tournaments at bars, but there's also really bad tournaments at bars. Yeah. And it's like, do I want to bring my girlfriend's family to this tournament?
Right.
That's kind of how I think.
That's a huge point there also, is we talk about the wives and, like, listen, my
kid
wife
friendly.
I offer her to come to like any tournament, but I know, like, what do you, like, how can you, I have a whole friend group who's like, why don't you invite me to these tournaments? Like, why don't you ever let me know? Like, college buddies and stuff. And I'm like, because you will hate it. I am doing you a favor. Right. You do not want to see a bunch of dudes meander to and from a table for 7 hours
or more.
Yeah. You don't want to. I mean, like, now, if it's a WAL event, like, now I'm like, okay, this is going to be 2.5 hours, and You're going to be in and out, and hopefully it'll be a little entertaining.
Yeah.
You know, so.
That makes sense.
Well, and a lot of the issues of tournaments, I think, are how it's run too. Like people can't get their brackets together. You know, it's like it doesn't need to take, 10 hours for 50 competitors.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I've been on the end of
I know
a
you've ran
really long event that was like my 7 stages of hell.
Yeah, I was there.
So yeah, it's one thing when there's 50 competitors. It's another thing when you're expecting 100 and you get 200.
Yep.
Keystones.
Yes, the first one. The second one.
Oh, the second one
was fairly smooth, but
yeah.
we learned from the first one and we overstaffed.
Yeah. To make tournaments good, and you want people coming back, you know what I mean? Give them a good show, and don't make them be, when people are leaving before they're pulling their finals, like it's pretty bad.
Yeah,
pretty bad. Yeah.
I've seen it at big events too, at expos, where people are just like, I gotta go. Like, we've been here for too long.
The flip side to that coin is the Arnold's itself. If you've ever been there, they're on a time frame.
Yep.
They have you have exactly 1 hour on that stage, and we know how many competitors are in that tournament, and they're running 4 tables, and you do not have a rest. Like you run your first round, they run your second round on another table, and you got to go right away. So there's a pressure element to that where I forget who I was talking to recently, and they're talking about how much they hate the Arnold's. Artem hates the Arnold. He went a couple times, hates it because it's so rushed. So like you can have this slow moving thing that's excruciating, or you can have this rush thing that feels like it's not even an event. So I mean, it's nice for me because it's quick, but if you have a war in the first round, you are done. The first time I went, I got a stop on Craig Touye, pulled him over to the pin line. It was a good 20, 30-second match. We were both shot. That was it. That was all she wrote. I wind up not placing, So and that's because I was back up to the table with Brent Rackers the next round.
Yeah, he's a freak. That's a good competitor right there. But the other aspect to it is these long tournaments, that you almost rest for too long, and now it's dangerous because now you're cold.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And people don't. The time to warm up is really tough.
I also don't like when and I mean we've even in our tournaments we've been guilty of it for whatever reason, but where I like to run the class through.
Yep.
There's like nationals, they hold the top however many, or so that they have a finals, or I get that, but there's also, like you said, I like to stay warm. I'd like to run the class the whole way through. They're having to warm up. The older I get, the more I have to warm up. Is there's a thin line to find that sweet spot where you are ready to pull, and it's safe.
Yeah, I always feel like I'm the most sore after a tournament, even though we practice for 3 hours every Sunday. But after a tournament, you do 5 matches and you're shot for 2 weeks,
right?
Because you're hitting at 100%.
Yep.
And the warm up sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
So
warm up always sucks. It always sucks.
So between the two of that, you're tearing things up that you're not doing at normal practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, what's your
Uh-oh.
You froze up.
Yeah.
Froze up there, Josh.
What's your what?
Are you back? Oh, you froze up for a second.
Yeah. Froze up.
You froze up? Yeah, no, I was saying we got a lot of newbies coming in the sport and whatnot. Paul, what's your I watched you a few weeks ago when we were at that Philly tournament, and you were doing you were teaching, and I appreciated you the way you were teaching these guys and showing them stuff and all that. Do you have an approach with people that you train with, the new guys that come on the team? Do you have kind of when you get them on the table, do you have here's what we're gonna do first, second, a time frame?
I try and start with the basics, right? I'm caught in 2 weird perspectives when it comes to how I'm coaching guys up. And Warren can talk to that too. I feel like I do pretty well with the basics. Like, all right, come set your feet. Here's how your body position, boom, boom, boom. Right. And then there's a gap in my ability, right? I can teach the real basics. I can teach the real basic movements, right? And the basic setup stuff. And then there's a gap. There's a gap where I'm not really good, like in the middle area where my brain is working on things, like my brain is processing things that Storm and I work on, like really fine, like
it's advanced stuff.
Yeah, finite stuff. I acknowledge that I am not great in the middle. Like working with Warren a lot, there's times where I'm like, Warren, listen, bro, we got to go hit another practice because you got to grab other dudes. I'm saying the same stuff to you.
I can only teach you so much.
At this juncture, because listen, guys, when you start, when I started, you start so green, you're at the point where first off, you don't even know the verbiage, right? It's just like football or anything else. We take for granted when we talk to, a kid about cover two, you say cover two all the time, and they have no idea that means too high safety zone underneath. You know what I mean? No idea. So, but we take that for granted. We assume they know that. So a lot of times in arm wrestling, it can be the same thing. The verbiage might be off or whatever the case may be. And I try to tell the newer guys, like, you got to go to as many people as you can and let them talk as much as you can. And you just try and retain 10%. And then if you can take 10% from each of these people and then figure your own style out. So like, even with Warren, I struggle trying to help him figure out what his move is. You know what I mean? I feel like when Warren decides what his ace move is, I'll be able to help again.
Yeah.
Like if there is 100% commitment when Warren says, you know what, I am going to post top roll with my left arm and I am going to drop into a shoulder driven hook with my right arm. Now I can help you. But like that intermediate where we're trying to figure out, I struggle. And that's why I tell the Warren, like, hey, I got to get you with other guys. I need to watch you pull other people at your level. And I need you to talk to other people and learn from other people. And when we figure out what it is you want to do, now I can maybe start helping again.
That's interesting. Yes. Yeah, that level that you're talking about, that intermediate, that is like such a crucial thing for, because once you get people standing right and putting their elbow on the pad and holding the peg, it's like, okay, well, now we really got to focus on you not breaking your arm.
Right. Right. Yeah, I made the intermediate sound like it was like a small thing. No, there's a lot in there.
Roughly about 98% of it.
Well, there's the 2% that fall into the beginners too. Like, just get your feet right. So let's say 94.
It's so funny when you get these these arm wrestling kids. I say kids, and they could be any age, but they're an arm wrestling kid. Watching some YouTube videos and trying to emulate, like something that they should not be doing.
Yeah,
right.
We get kids that come in that are 5'6" and they're trying to arm wrestle like Devin.
Yeah,
because they saw him on YouTube. It's like,
but you know what's so interesting too that has happened now with this content and everything that's going on, and I don't know the kid's real name, Khalil
Grizzly.
Grizzly. I don't know what his last name really is. Khalil something. It's probably not Grizzly. If his last name is Grizzly, then the dude's definitely a born stud.
Yeah.
Is that his real name?
I'm not sure.
That ain't his real name. Anyway, if that's his real name, that guy's going to be a world champion. Anyhow, this kid and a couple other kids that train with him, they are good.
Yeah.
Now, is he winning matches? Like, did he lose to Shane and everything? He lost. This kid knows how to arm wrestle.
Yeah.
Like, way beyond his age and his time in the sport. So there's this influx of newer guys who are coming in at a really Khalil came to practice when RVJ was there, and we interviewed RVJ afterwards. He was like, yo, those two kids, they're crazy. Like, they're moving all over the table, every different move and everything else. Yeah. I mean, I'm blown away by some of the guys who are coming in. Yeah. But to the point that you're making, is probably what I'm gonna lead into here is when you guys watch too much Devin Larratt and too much Michael Todd. Listen, these guys are the best in the world. We're not going to do this at practice at all. No. It's not, Not on my watch. Like,
No, not gonna
I
happen.
can
Get
vouch
out.
for it. Not that I've ever tried to Kings move him, but I just know that that's not something that flies at the Linn house.
no, it's not. This is a thing that Devin will tell you, and Michael, you got to be like seasoned, like over like a long time.
Yeah.
And I've seen like our buddy, and I talked to him today, Mike Runkle, tore his bicep, left arm against Roger Bailey in the third match where he got stretched out a little bit, and he knows how to Kings move, kind of, and he's bam, and he's recovering now, and this is it hits too close to home. I watched RVJ tear Bo McDowell, a guy from Delaware, his bicep. He immediately he wanted RVJ fresh for fresh, and we're at the practice, and he immediately drops into the Kings, and Rob went, pop.
Oh yeah.
So like I'm seeing too much of it, and I'm seeing it guys that have a couple of years in the sport, So to think of your biceps, your tendons not being seasoned, and coming in off the street and saying like, hey, I got the option of being a top roller, a hooker, a presser, or a Kings mover. To even think that style is on the plate for a new person.
Shouldn't even be an option.
Shouldn't even be an option at all.
I'm afraid of it. I won't even do it.
Yeah.
I won't even do it.
Right.
I was working with Artem Top Roll when he was up at Travis's, and Devin came there and gave them a little like breakdown on how he sets the strap for the Kings move. And Artem was like setting the strap on me, like how Devin would set it, how he anchors and hitting back into that offensive Kings move that like Michael Todd would hit into. And listen, don't get me wrong, guys, this is a legitimate move, right? But I would be afraid to even try and execute that at practice because I know how tight I am,
Yeah.
I'm not, my biceps are tight. If I get stretched too far, I'm letting it go.
Yeah.
There's two moves I won't pull at practice. Like if somebody does it to me, flop wrist and Kings move.
The worst part with the flop wrist press is that it hurts. It hurts.
Stings. I get like a pain all the way through my elbow.
Oh, there's a guy at Morocco's that has a real good one. His name's Joe. He's a really underrated puller. And he's got a really good flop wrist, fast hit press. We'll do it every once in a while, but he will only do it if I initiate, say like, go ahead and do it. I want to, you know what I mean? But it's like, it is painful, but there is,
we got a guy on the Jersey team, John Bailey. I don't know if you've met him, He used to only do this flat wrist because his wrist was so weak that everyone would just take his hand and he just committed to it. But he got his wrist so strong.
Yeah. His wrist wasn't. His wrist's not that weak.
No, it was when he first.
Was it?
In the beginning of the sport, it was like a girl's wrist.
Well, when I was at practice, okay. But I know he has a smaller hand. When I was at practice with you, Josh, he we were working on the table and everything, and going through different spots, and I told him, I was like, man, your wrist isn't that bad. Like, why? It's like you're just going to the move that you have made comfortable for yourself.
But also, you got it's Jersey wrist too. You know what I mean? Like he's training. It's the group you're training with too.
That's what I mean. If you're gonna go pull Jim Bryan and say, man, I can't keep my wrist. Well, I mean, no wonder. Like
I can't keep my wrist either. But it's but he got so mad and he put in.
We're losing you.
To get his wrist, like I gave him a lot of. He put the time in.
Yeah.
Just reps and just train. Every week he was getting stronger. Just his wrist,
John's a stud though.
He has it as a backup.
Yeah, John's a stud. John's strong. John's a strong dude, man. He is a strong dude. He can do stuff that I can't do. The dude can do like a flagpole thing and stuff. I can't do that crap.
Yeah.
These guy's a stud.
Yeah, he's badass, but and I want him to see that, but he still, doesn't think he's as good as he is.
Right.
But that's a lot of pullers too.
Yeah. We all got insecurity. If we, let's be real. Like
I'm pretty accurate. I'm pretty accurate about my skill.
Yeah, but listen.
Yeah.
That makes it real easy on you, Ryan. That makes
it
real easy.
I know. Like
That's
when I
a
win,
sandbagger.
when I lose at a tournament, I'm like, oh, you beat the worst arm wrestler in the world. You know, it's a win-win
How
for me.
long can you be the worst arm wrestler in the world? Because you're bound to
Right.
get better too. You know.
I might
I
have to
keep telling him that.
change
I keep telling
when
him
I
he's
win
gonna-
one.
he's
It'll
gonna
be the
get better.
second worst arm wrestler in the world. I'll have to keep changing.
We've had this conversation. He's just going to keep moving up the tier.
Yeah.
Eventually, he'll be the 5th or 6th worst arm wrestler in the world.
You know, Paul, when you started, did you think you had a like a genetic gift for it?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe that. I learned later that I might not have, but I believed it when I first started. I did.
Yeah.
I went to my first tournament. I went to my first tournament with zero training or anything, with full intentions of winning it. Like in my head, like that was going to happen. You know, so I believed it. And, you know, I lost to Bill Runkle and Joe Gogochi, our buddy Pretty Joe.
Pretty Joe.
Pretty Joe.
I lost to him, and I was like riding home from Pittston, like, oh man, maybe I'm not a really good genetically gifted arm wrestler. But it was one of those turning points where it's like, all right, man. So like, would I have done anything different in this? No, I wouldn't. My best introduction to the sport was that shitty bar with nitro reffing, and like, it was one of those tournaments that went way too long. It had like 40 competitors in it. But you know what? I wouldn't change a thing, because I went from that to the Winter Blast with Sue and you know, all you guys in New Jersey.
And that was a good run for me.
And then I got to see something that was a little bit more professional. And at that point, my perspective changed again. And during that environment, I said, okay, there are teams, there are different, you know, there are opportunities out here other than Diane's Bar in Pittston. So I think like Diane's Deli. You are right. You are right. Diane's Deli. It's infamous. It really is. But nah, I mean, I think to me that was key. I encourage people to compete. I think like right away, like, and everybody has different schools of thought on it, but I believe competition is the only thing that's going to get you comfortable. So if you don't go up there and put yourself out there, you're not going to be comfortable quickly. You can go to 50 practices before you compete, but you're never going to have this. You're never going to replicate in practice what you get in a tournament, period. Not going to happen. I don't care if you do king of the table or anything. So you need to get that experience. I believe wholeheartedly in that. And that's part of the reason, like, I pushed Warren to, like, Warren competed after like 1 or 2 practices, I think.
Yeah.
You know, he only had a few
Keystones.
in a huge tournament, in a monster class, you know, and that can go 1 or 2 different ways. I just try and prep guys like, listen, if you go 0-2, so what? Right. And I was talking about this. This is, you know, tying the 2 sports that I deal with together. We met with our head coach and we were talking about different things and, you know, what we need to impress on kids. Right. There has to be an ability to lose, right? And that sounds like almost like contradictory, right? Like everybody talks about being a poor sport or whatever. Like there is a lot to learn about how you lose. You have to be able to lose with grace, and you have to be able to lose and learn. And I think at a young age, as a kid, I didn't understand learning from losing. I just understand the devastation from losing. Arm wrestling has really brought that to light, because this is a sport where you absolutely cannot be undefeated. You can be the greatest in the world and you can talk about 100 losses you had. In order to get to be the greatest, you got to lose. And if we want to bring our buddy Ryan Bowen back into the conversation, that's one thing that I admire about Ryan. He seeks out his losses. So he's always, it's a thin line of calling people out that you don't have any business competing with, but also taking those lumps and learn how far you are away, learn what mistakes. Nobody rewatches film of them winning and breaks it down. You just, when you watch film of you winning a match or winning a game, you're watching it like a fan, you're admiring yourself. You know what I mean? But when you're losing, you are picking yourself apart.
Right.
Every minute detail. So it's such a key portion. You gotta be able to learn from the losses without letting them devastate you, I think. And the best way to do that is to go arm wrestle and lose.
Yeah. it's kind of like that mixed school of thought. Sometimes like when we train new people, especially like some girls that come on the team and stuff like that, like I'm a little hesitant to throw them into a competition because I don't want to see them get hurt either.
Right.
If they're not ready to hit,
Right.
because especially in practice, how often do we really hit at full force?
Right. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
And I can't rebuttal that. So, I mean, I guess, like I said, when it comes down to like the difference in levels too, I'm 100% with you too. Like there are certain people who might come into the sport with zero genetic aptitude.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that scare me. You know what I mean? Where that advice might be a little bit different. You know what I mean? Or if their skill level innately is just not ready yet, I'm with you 100%. But that's the worst feeling when you got somebody in your camp who goes and breaks their arm.
I've seen it happen.
I've had it happen. I've had it happen in my team twice now, and it's horrible.
Yeah, there's a lot of bone. Like when I was a kid, I was like 11 years old when I started. They wouldn't let me compete until like a couple of years into it. Years, like maybe 3 years before I was in like a men's novice class, whatever.
Right.
It was.
But you know what?
Afraid. I was a kid.
Yeah, if you're 11 years old, like that's understandable. You know what I mean? And they probably didn't have a whole lot of kids classes then, huh?
They did in Connecticut. Me, Storm, and a couple other people.
Yeah, that's the only other person I thought about was Storm.
Yeah,
because I know Storm was sneaking into the men's class at like 13, 14
with
fake
then.
IDs. Yeah. Storm's got some good stories about like when he's 13, 14 and using somebody else's ID to get in.
Storm was really good back then. I mean,
right.
as a junior, because I couldn't compete with him when I was a kid in the same age category.
Well, that's really brings us back to the beginning of that point, which is like it depends on that genetic aptitude to also, you know what I mean? And I also do believe that there's a lot of factors when it comes to broken arms, like bone density, things like that you may be innately like. Listen, I knock on wood. I hope, dear Lord, don't let me break my arm. But I've never broken anything aside from ribs and fingers. I've never experienced that through all my years of athletics. So I feel like I felt pretty confident coming in, and then pairing that up with knowing what I'm doing. I think Storm's a similar guy. He's never broken a bone.
I've never broken it. No.
Yeah. And I think that there's something to that. There's something to that. So, and then, you talk about like the arm break and some of them being preventable because of, because of position. But then you also talk about the arm breaks that are just freak things. That just
center of the table.
Yeah. Pow.
Just
right
a little
away,
bit of pressure.
like back pressure and everything, There was the one, I saw one in Erie, a girl, Nicole. She's pretty prominent. At the time, she was pretty prominent, like supporting arm wrestling on Facebook. It was her first competition. She'd been training out there with Team Relentless and everything. And she had really good technique. And the match, boom, she pulls straight into back pressure, hand close to the shoulder. She's turning over, back pressure, and she's going to pin through the hand. She's got the hand controlled, and bam, her arm just lets go.
That's
without
crazy.
Shoulder commitment, shoulder retreated back, everything that you would say, this is a really good spot.
Just didn't have the bone density for it.
Just didn't have the bone density.
Yeah. It's a scary thing. But it's a real thing that could happen at a practice, at a tournament.
Right.
It's like we always used to say, like the guy that walked into the event, amateur, all juiced up.
Yep.
His mind, like that's the guy who's going to break his arm.
Right. Yeah. Here's the deal. If you come in here, you come into these things, you're all juiced up. You've been lifting your whole life and everything, and you have these huge muscle bellies. You know what I mean? And what if you are a smaller bone person, a thinner bone person, and you might not have all that bone density, but you got all this muscle, this soft tissue behind it. The minute you put any spiral pressure, scary.
You never want to see like a bodybuilder, like arm wrestling.
Right.
That's prone to breaking.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when they're lean and dry.
Right.
So.
Yeah, scary, man.
Anybody else got?
You know what? And it never gets easier. It never gets easier to see it.
No.
And we go back to that marathon tournament that went on forever and ever and ever. During that tournament, we had 2 broken arms and 2 torn biceps.
I know.
And on the second broken arm, I looked at James Reed and I said, "Let's give everybody their money back and let's just be done with this right now." And he looked me in my eyes and said, "You better keep going." But I was like, I turned green. I was like, if one more bad thing happens, I'm out. I'm going home. I can't handle it. You know.
Well, it's really important for the people running the tournament to handle the broken arm right. You know, to keep the tournament moving.
Get them off.
You know,
yeah,
because you got to get them off.
The
You got to get them off. You got to get the ambulance. You got to do it right. Because if you let everybody see that for too long, that's done. Nobody wants to pull.
Yeah, the energy goes. Yep, the energy goes.
Sucks it right out of the room.
So heights, needle, blood, and arm breaks.
Yeah, pretty much anything that would make you soft. You know, that's what I'm scared of. Anything that would be considered soft. Sharks. Yeah. I'm really scared of sharks.
Sharks. That's a good one, dude. Sharks are scary.
I am scared of sharks. Bad.
Hell yeah.
Jaws mess me up, man. And then I watch Shark Week like a dummy. It's like
screw that.
He said Jaws messed me up.
You can't see them coming. They sneak up on you.
No.
You know?
Listen. It's scary. Just think about it next time you're at the beach and you go like chest level. Like, yo, you are in this apex predator's living room. And he's coming home and saying, "Why are you in my living room?"
Yeah.
I'll take your leg.
I like when like a person beats a shark up and like punches it in the face.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, yes.
I do too.
I'll be honest with you. Like I see Paul punching a shark in the fucking
face.
What? You got me pegged wrong. I ain't getting that close. I don't care if he is out of water. I'll keep my distance. I'll keep my distance.
But y'all know the sharks don't want to eat people. That's not their food.
Nah. They're just
Yeah,
that's an accident.
And they don't have hands. They can't come up and shake your hand, so they got to bite you to figure out what the fuck.
Right. I don't want. I want to eat cows and deers and stuff too. But if I come home and some weirdo standing in my living room, I might kill them too. You know what I mean? If I go to the refrigerator and I open it up and there's a shark in there, I might go get my gun.
Dude, you mean if Ryan's standing in your living room asking some questions
with these glasses?
Yeah,
dude,
exactly.
This podcast is gonna blow up if Paul leaves and goes and kills someone right now. It'll be the last podcast you did before he killed someone.
You're getting arrested because y'all are an accomplice.
We pushed him to it.
Right over the edge.
The youth cocktail supplements did not work anymore, and
the turmeric wore off.
You guys have anything to add? Because I had one more question I wanted to ask Mr. Linn.
Yeah, bro.
Go ahead, do for it.
Yeah.
All right. So, Paul, in your opinion, I mean, I know like everything's been kind of stagnant as far as like we were talking about the WAL and everything, and COVID, but we're hitting a lot of these local practices. We're hitting a lot of these tournaments that are going on. Who do you think, in your opinion, as you've been watching, obviously reffing and just being there in some of these events, should we be looking out for as far as like going to be like probably leaving the 98%?
Okay. That depends on what classifies leaving that.
Sorry.
I think that Brandon Elsesser's already outside of that. Okay. Yeah. But I mean, depending on when just seeing what's happening around here locally, you can't really argue with this guy. I've been promoting him to Neil and these guys for a while now. This guy is legit. He can pull every different way. When it comes to like, all right, let's talk. Like, are you talking about like an amateur moving into the pro class?
You can throw that in if you want, amateur pro, or just like maybe like a smaller pro that could possibly get to that pinnacle.
There's so many levels.
Yeah,
there's so many levels.
That's where it gets weird because they're like, I mean, a lot of people use the 5-tier system and everything. And if we're talking locally, there's a couple dudes like there's my guy Kevin Kaler. I've been saying about this guy for a long time now. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not aware of this human being, he does not travel much. He is a weirdo. Okay, he is a weirdo. He is coming into the sport at a very similar level than a lot of a lot of guys who are now seen as that. He has all the tools. We just got to get him in front of a bigger stage, and we got to get him
Kevin
the right matches. He doesn't want to call people out. He's a polite guy.
He's a super nice guy. He's like right underneath you as far as the nicest guy.
He's nicer than me for sure. We have a lot of similarities. I think we both came into the sport at a very similar level. I think we both, the one thing is I approached it differently. I went everywhere, where he kind of settled into a team. And I do think that he needs to get, I know he's worked in New Jersey and done some stuff. He needs to go everywhere, and he needs to learn everything. And then he needs to go to a big tournament and wipe it out. And then once he does that, he needs to then he needs to give himself the credit that he deserves. And he needs to go after, not necessarily go after a guy, but allow someone around him to set him up a challenging match.
Right.
I've tried to do it. I don't think he's really.
Yeah, he doesn't think he's as good as he is.
No, he don't. I mean, I've talked to him multiple times. He can do whatever he wants. He's like 3 inches taller than me, and he can drop a hook on you. Yes, he could be a weirdo. He could be an absolute weirdo. I would love to see him pull. You know what match I would really love to see? I would love to see him versus Roger Canningham.
Ooh.
I love that match. It's almost like they're so similar. And I feel like Kevin could go pull Roger, and whether he wins or lose, he's going to be able to learn what you can do with that frame.
Yeah. Right.
You know, like there's certain people you got to go get with. And I think that would be a killer match.
I think Kevin just needs that spark, that motivation.
Yeah.
Because I even told him, like, because I was going to the Philly practice, and then also Sundays, in Jersey, and Kevin's at the Philly practice, and I said, listen, like, I can't train you the way you need to be trained. I'm not strong enough to take you into these positions and show you and teach you while you're giving me the pressure to, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
So you need to come and train with people that are stronger than you, that can show you that. And he's got a long way to go, but he's really strong. I mean,
oh my goodness,
like
it's just weird,
incredibly strong.
Like, his back pressure when he engages it, I mean, it is really good.
Yeah,
and he's also got a hook.
He's got a very good hook. He's got a very good hook. It's very hard to defend against because of the length of his forearm.
Yeah,
he has all the tools. And I think he trains in the gym, but I don't think he trains in the gym like that. I know he trains, but like I see like if this guy came and lived with me for a month and just did everything I did, he would be a weirdo, like a weirdo. Like,
did you see him pulling Brandon at Zach Lee's thing?
No, I didn't see it. I was busy reffing.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, was it close or was he giving it to him?
It was closer than I think. I think he surprised Brandon.
Oh, I'm sure. They had him prior. Brandon wouldn't take we offered that match because I had finally got Kevin. Like he was like, I know you're gonna set me up. You're gonna make me do a match, and I said, yeah, I'm gonna try. Anyway, I tried to get that match with Brandon, and I don't think Brandon had pulled with him prior, but I don't think he saw anything for himself to gain in that match. He preferred to pull Goga because Goga had a little bit better resume.
Right.
But that would have been a great match. Brandon's table IQ is too good right now, I think. But I think that there are angles where Kevin is flat out stronger. For sure.
Kevin definitely pinned him.
Yeah.
And surprised him. And Brandon was like, how long have you been pulling? It's like just over a year or something.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Well, that's a fruit.
Yeah. It was good though to see that interaction.
Yep. Yeah, I wish I could have been more I wish I wasn't reffing that whole time. That was fun.
That was a good event.
I was so confused seeing that event.
Zach started talking about it. Zach just started creating little Facebook hype for these challenge matches, and it just spider webbed into like 22 matches.
Yeah, it was
And
a good day.
They were all like best of fives though. That was like grueling to referee.
Yeah.
It was hard.
Someone I was happy to see on the table was Frank Hurst.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Frank.
Yeah, I think Frank sold 3 or 4 tables that day.
Yeah.
He did. He did.
He got Jimmy. He gave Jimmy G his table that day.
Yeah, he did.
You know, because Frank, doesn't get the recognition he deserves. Because he's been out of this. Hasn't competed. In a while. But he's. If he trains up, because that wasn't trained up version of him.
Right.
That was
right.
slow.
That's off the couch. That's off the couch. Yeah. I mean, Frank's beaten just about everybody. Like Frank's got wins on Devin. Who can say that?
Right.
Him and Jim used to have a little back and forth for a lot of years.
I read it. I read a lot of comments that it seemed to be all in good fun though, for sure.
Yeah, it was all good fun.
Yeah.
But he's a funny guy, and it's just fun when you have you're getting made fun of all the way from Connecticut. You know what I mean? Like only in the sport.
Right.
Yeah. Only in the sport that you get made fun of all across the country.
Especially with social media now,
Yeah.
So much easier.
So much
Where's that echo coming from?
Right, I hear like a reverb on your thing.
Is it me?
It's you.
Yeah, it's you. It's
you.
Warren.
You.
God damn. Paul, this is your guy. What the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
You trained
I'm
him.
just mad he has a background and I got this weird blue wall.
We'll get you one for next time.
I'll send it to you.
But Paul, we appreciate you taking the time to come talk to us.
Nah, you guys are awesome, man. Anytime I can help. You know what I thought of that we screwed up? We should have done like an intro, like, subscribe, share, and turn the alerts on. We should have done that.
Yeah. We did a little intro before you came on.
Okay.
So you didn't see that part.
I got you, buddy. Got you.
Yeah.
Wait, that was on record before I got on?
Oh yeah,
So you recorded all that dumb stuff where I was fumbling around and trying to put headphones on?
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, but I'll cut that out.
Okay, I was just about to say, I was giving you a lot of credit for the background and professionality and everything.
And for the behind the scenes compilation video.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I still have that video that your wife sent me that I could clip in there. You're telling her to put the patch on her head to give her a headache. I was like, no.
I don't think I ever saw the video. I feel like this could be this might not be.
You ever watch Artem's videos and at the end he has that clip of Devin eating?
Yeah.
Like this could be the Paul Linn version, and we play it at the end of every video that we make.
Milo, you going bed?
Yeah, exactly. This could be our version of that, and every podcast we end with that little
clip. Put the nitroglycerin patch on your temple for 5 minutes. I promise your head will explode.
Oh, I bet.
Or not to mention, we do have a clip of Callie saying that your wrist is weak.
Yeah,
so we have that as well.
Yeah,
so I could throw that in here.
That's
too.
His wrist is weak.
Was Paul Linn strong?
Yeah, he was a little too weak for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has limp wrists, little girly hands.
Just like these.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you beat him.
Yeah, it was fun beating everybody.
How about
Oh my! Hey,
it's all in good fun, though.
People tell the truth.
All in good fun.
Absolutely.
We appreciate the shit out of you, dude. You have been one of the biggest supporters of doing what we're doing here with the other 98%, and eternally.
Guys, man, I love what you're doing. I love doing this stuff with like Jimmy G and Jake Ward, because it isn't. The beauty of it is we went serious, we went silly, we talk funny stuff. There needs to be, I think, more of the lighthearted stuff. And I think what you guys are doing is really, really cool. And I hope you stick it out for the long haul. And if there's any way I can help, let me know. But I'll keep promoting you to the guys who are not allowed to be involved.
Dude, our 3 fans are gonna love this.
Yeah, all 18.
All 3 of our fans are gonna think this is great.
We have Ryan. We have 18.
You guys subscribe to this channel.
How many subscribers you got?
We have 18.
You have 18 subscribers.
That's awesome, right?
Okay, here's the goal.
I'm quitting my job tomorrow.
We are going to double that. We are going to double that off of this video.
Probably.
We could probably get 36.
You think we get 36? We're going to try and get 50.
Yeah, I think so. You got the followers to.
You're bringing the clout, bro.
Now,
when you say like, share, and subscribe, do people actually like, share, and subscribe?
They do.
They do.
But if you don't say it,
they don't think about it. They don't think about it. If I see a weird video on Facebook, I watch it, right? If that weird video has like a subscribe button on it, I subscribe if I like the video. If somebody says, hey, thanks for joining. If you don't know about my channel, subscribe. I watch the video and that's in the back of my head and I hit subscribe.
Yeah. Or like it, then I like it. Yeah. I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Because
what's funny is I asked your wife if she had any like funny nicknames for you. And she said, I call him by his full name, Paul Linn. So and then in that video she sent me, she's calling you Paul Linn the whole time.
Yeah,
I was
weird. It's very weird.
She just calls you by your full name, Paul Linn.
Let me tell you something.
That's happened for a long time. That's always been like that.
Fellas,
what's your middle name?
I'm gonna tell you. Listen, I've been in a vehicle with both of them on a 2-hour road trip. The banter is incredible between these two. Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, it's incredible when you're in the passenger seat.
I laughed the entire time.
No.
Dude, when you're married and you have to live with them, it's a whole different story.
I live it, yeah.
Dude, my wife doesn't find anything I do funny. She's like, just thinks I'm an idiot. She thinks I'm gonna break my arm wrestling. Like, she's not as supportive as some wives.
Oh, until you said arm break, I was kind of on the same page as her.
That's all right. When you see how I edit this video, you're gonna take that back.
Take it back. Take that out.
It's hard to explain to some people why you want to go hold hands with men. For
aggressively hold hands with men. Yeah. I tell people
to move that 6 inches either way.
Yeah. Joe said that at like the first tournament that I ever went to. Joe Gogochi was saying, so I talked to him a little bit. And he was like, yeah, my wife can't figure out why I want to spend all my Saturdays holding hands with men. And I never thought of it that way, but that is weird.
I've got a friend of mine that makes fun of me and says that I spend my weekends pulling dudes. So,
well, it's true.
It's true. Just not in that weird way. But yeah, man, Paul, thank you. Let me know if we're training this week at all. Hit me up.
Yeah,
we'll put links under this to all your stuff, your social media.
We don't need all that.
Yes, we do.
Don't need all
yes,
that.
we do.
I'll help. Let me try my best to help with the growth of this channel, and let me know how I can help in the future, because I honestly believe that things like this really are the heart of the growth of the sport. Because when you come in and you're not at the level yet that you want to be, and you might want to ask questions, or you might want to discuss topics that you don't want somebody who's at a different level to treat you condescendingly about. I feel like the idea of the other 98%, Facebook group and this show is a facilitation for healthy growth, without the bad cop. And listen, don't get me wrong. I think it's good for a little bit of negative reinforcement, but I think there's also a thin line. You can't be afraid to ask questions,
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to look at it too.
It is.
Just looking at this, the 4 of us right here. I mean, we have 4 different levels right here. And it's pretty cool.
Which level am I, guys?
Well, yours is written on the back of your
yeah.
Hey, I'll take it.
But like whatever level you're at, you still got questions and you still got room to grow.
Right. Well, and the other aspect of that too is you might say there's 4 different levels, but this is a great representation of the community, in my opinion.
It is. Yeah.
You know, at least when it's at its best.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thanks, man. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks, Paul.
All right, brother.
All right, guys.
Yeah. Go live your life. Go take
Have
your
a good night,
supplements.
fellas. Yeah, I'm gonna go put my nitroglycerin patch on my
Fountain of
balls.
youth.
All right, I'm out.
See you, buddy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What's up, guys?
All right, he's gone. That was awful. That guy, what a jerk.
What about this guy?
Melatonin gummies?
No, that's for Lincoln. What about this guy?
Well,
This guy that you take a shot out of.
Yeah, this is Serovital, which is supposed to boost your own human growth hormone factor. We don't know if it actually works. It was given to me because it was expired.
I'm pretty sure that you look really soft.
I will gladly.
Can I
take
say
a
this?
supplement.
Paul Linn,
Hold on.
how do we clean? Yeah, we get it because the fountain of youth is getting extremely crowded.